All right. Whew. Red line is all the way up on that one. All right. So we just saw the Chinese number come in just a second ago. If you guys are on Discord, you heard, you can see Ernest and I having a bit of a discussion about that one. But man, talk about a just absolutely just insane move. 115 pips down, 115 pips back up in less than 10 minutes in preparation for that number. Pretty crazy. Um, definitely, definitely an example of the news being pre-released. There's no other ifs, ands, or buts about it. Somebody knew about that information, and at the end of the day, what they did is they slammed the price down so they could buy it for the news to be good for it to rally all the way back up again. So, yeah, go China. Gotta love how they operate there. Um, yeah, just insane, right? There we go. Yep, there you go. Now your tickets are in. Go ahead. I forgot to do the ticket thing because I was watching the chart. But yeah, so you guys can see that. I mean, Aussie over here is like, oh, it's only up 8. That's not a lot, right? But here, I mean, here's the chart, right? I mean, literally from the start, not of the peak, but from the start down, you're talking about 112 pips, then literally back up again in 10 minutes. So yeah, some absolute craziness in that one. And again, that is this manufacturing PMI and non-manufacturing PMI. And what this is showing, again, they're expected to be low, but look at that. That's showing an expansion of industry. So of manufacturing. So look at that, man. They are starting to move. Overall, the day, though, again, it's a Monday. Mondays tend to be a little bit strange. But, and I say but, look at these 24-hour pip changes. Gotta say I'm liking that. Um, Not bad, right? Not too bad at all. So 88, minus 82, minus 104. I'm sorry, positive 104, positive 77, positive 125, positive 17 now. And again, we just saw the craziness there. Euro pound minus 10, and then pound yen up 38. So loving this. One of the things also, if you guys are looking on the dailies for some of these insane ATRs, 14 days back was one of the first big spikes. So tomorrow we should have a much, much larger drop actually inside of the ATRs, which will make it pretty interesting. Because we're going to start getting that reduced volatility, or not reduced volatility, but the reduced necessarily reporting of it. So I'm very excited for that. Now, for those of you that didn't know, again, we talk, do a lot of the Natick stuff as well. Natick's basically doubled all their strict widths, pretty much on everything across the board. Some of them are pretty insane. I think they're 2 weeks behind. They could have done it after the first week, but right now it's they're adjusting them all right now, and they're going to lose a lot of money. I don't think they realize it yet. With the ATRs kind of coming back with inside of acceptable rates, they're going to lose because people aren't going to trade. People are going to lose money. They're going to get very frustrated, and they're just not going to trade it. So honestly, right now it's a better opportunity to trade over in the currency realm than it is Nadex. It's not always the case, but right now that's just the way that I see it. Really liking these. Okay, I really think these are coming back to where we want them to be. Now going into tomorrow, you can see that we have. Oh, excuse me. We have pound news early on the current account, and then we have CAD GDP starting at 8:30 tomorrow morning. So the GDP will be interesting. It's picked to be at 0.1. Don't be surprised if that comes in at 0.0, especially with oil the way that it's collapsing. And then we have Chicago PMI, so that'll be kind of our version of PMI. I am expecting the Chicago PMI number to be lower than 44. I expect probably 38 to 40. 38 to 42 is, I think we're going to miss on the downside on that one. Maybe even potentially as low as 35, but I do expect that to be lower. And then consumer confidence, and the consumer confidence number will be interesting. Previously it was 130. It's picked to be at 115. I don't know. Wouldn't necessarily be surprised if that's even a bit lower. So we'll see. And then 8:30 we have monetary policy. It's basically at 0 already, so there's really not a whole lot there. It's just going to be the meeting notes and kind of going forward. And then we'll see the more manufacturing PMI from at 9:45 tomorrow night. So again, picked to be 45, but tonight's were supposed to be 45, and they came in at 53. So again, I would expect a bit more Aussie movement tomorrow night as well. That just tends to be how it goes with the Aussie and the New Zealand when we have Chinese news. So some movement. As far as looking over the latest news of things today. You guys can see mostly everything. Again, this is funny. Competitive day trader dumps Japan stocks amid 75 million loss. Okay, nice. Unemployment rate. CNBC is always posting the best stuff here, right? Coronavirus job losses total 47 million. Unemployment rate may hit 32%. So I like this one too. Putin is discussing the oil situation with Trump. Okay. What else we got? Another bout of strength. Yeah, the job losses thing. And then pound dollar. So for the most part, not too much stuff in here. The oil thing is interesting to see if we can get a bottom put into the oil. Um, I don't know. It's one of those things. It's kind of a catch-22. Oil this low is obviously a big benefit. There's a big perk to it being this low, but at the same time, it's also a hindrance because companies are not making the same type of money that they were making before. So, kind of goes back and forth with that one. With this many people not working, it's kind of nice. We actually down the street, my wife said she saw it. It was 185 per gallon, which I thought was great. I did not see the 185. I would have sent you guys pictures, but she saw 185. And I said, hey, listen, no, people aren't driving. They got this gas in the tanks. They got to dump it somewhere, right? And got to get rid of it. So again, they're trying and attempting to do that. But yeah, that's it. So it's a Monday, like I said. The latest is, I don't know if you guys heard Trump speak tonight. Maryland locked things down. I mean, again, I guess it's the first time you use shelter in place, although it's really not any different. And they're like, oh, you can be fined. You can be this. You can be this. But when you walk your dog, don't walk with your neighbor. So it's kind of not really enforceable. We'll see how it turns out. We'll see. And then Virginia, I heard, locked everybody down for 70 days, which I think is insane. I don't know how you can lock things down for 2.5 months from now. That would put us in a longer cycle than what China had. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. 155. Wow. I don't know. Like I said, I saw that thing from Kansas that it was 99 cents. They were the first ones to drop the 99. I don't know how they got it that cheap, but they did. They did. Man, I'm watching this Aussie number still bounce all over the place. Now, the funny thing was that Aussie number, and Ernest, I don't know if you saw this or not, that Aussie number, did you look at it on the 30-minute yet? I'll show you guys in a second, but that 30-minute spike is absolutely insane. And that was definitely a new setup. All right, with that being said, let's go into the scanner. So obviously Mondays is always a little bit funky with scanners. Friday, we did actually have some decent movement. So again, the scanner is kind of, it's in a weird stage, right? Typically in the majors, when you're seeing a lot of these consolidating things where there's no setups in either direction, again, consolidation, 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 consolidation. And really only two that, are giving us some type of a setup there. Again, you got to wonder. And a lot of this has to be with, again, we had such a huge number for the, unemployment rate or unemployment data last week. Basically one pop and then one drop immediately. And that's kind of what we're stuck inside right now is, again, whenever you see a smaller day. Euro is kind of the same situation. Consolidation, consolidation, consolidation. Euro New Zealand, again, liquidity issues. Euro Aussie, okay. Euro CAD, not too bad there. Again, we see uptrend set up and again, a pullback on the bottom 2 time frames. I wouldn't be surprised if it actually goes into an anchor break situation. Back to the downside. CAD, you see consolidation, consolidation up, but again, for the majority over here, you see blue, right? And again, kind of weird, right? Because you see CAD first, CAD second, and then obviously CAD below here, and that's to the downside. But the Aussie getting kind of a feed about the commodity currencies. This used to be all negative, and now it is all positive, okay? All positive Aussie, all positive pound. Now, again, all the pounds are in uptrend setups because they're pulling back on the lower time frames. Friday was a big day for the pound, right? Big day for the pound. Today wasn't bad. I mean, pound dollars, down 100. Euro pound's down 2. Pound yen's up 16. So, I mean, pound dollar being minus 100, 101 right now. That's not an uncommon day. I mean, that is within just slightly above what the the ATR has been the last couple of months. That's really not that bad of a number. And everything else, I mean, it's not, nothing's really in a bad spot there. So that won't be coming down. I will say it was interesting. The euro this weekend, actually, on the open on Sunday night, the euro actually had a larger spread than the pound pairs did. One of the euro, I forget which one it was now. I want to say it was like Euro Aussie or something like that. Had like a 40 pip spread this weekend versus the pound, which I was like, huh? How the heck does the euro have more risk right now than the pound does? But it did. But then within 1 hour, it was all the way back to normal, which is great. The Aussie ones had like 7 or 8, and then by 1 hour after it opened, they were back down to 2, so they were in a good position. And now they're back down to 1, so good stuff. So again, pound is all kind of in a similar situation. Aussie is all strength. We'll see that. Again, it's all back high on not high on the curve, but from the rebound from that really really big drop, it looks like a bottom was put in, and now we have some good levels on the larger time frames starting to be labeled in there. So again, it's bringing kind of some strength back into the market, and yeah, yeah, we'll see. It's nice that one has put a bottom, and it gives us something to analyze to the downside. All right, so let's dive over into charts. Here's that Aussie position I was just mentioning, right? So how about that on a 30-minute setup? Now remember, Chinese news basically is the equivalent to Australian or New Zealand news as well. So on a 30-minute, this is one that I would had been looking at. I was like, let's see, is this coming up? Is it coming up? Is it coming up? Where could it be? And you guys can see it drove itself literally right into a 30-minute zone before that news. And look at that. I mean, I don't even know how this is probably 10, at least 10 to 1. I mean, the risk on this was 10 pips, right? And then it actually dropped all the way 120. So a 12 to 1 pop off of that news. It's kind of crazy, right? And at the end of the day, it's at the same exact spot. It really didn't do much. It just hit there, dropped all the way down, gave people a better buying price, and then came all the way back up to where it was. So, you know, kind of an interesting trade setup. But yeah, there's your 30-minute trade setup of the night, right? I was prepared. I was getting the charts ready to go. I didn't have a chart, a trade setup, but look at this movement right off of that zone and just boom, just through the floor and then all the way right back up again. So anyway, taking it back up to a daily, you guys can see we've ground all the way back up again. I'll clean some of these up here. I'll leave that down there. Um, Obviously, this was set up from the gap for this weekend. You guys can see that this one is like no trigger. It basically did it where it opened from. It just ran, came all the way back down again and touched the not only the 1 to 3 but the 1 to 5. So it invalidated really any trade setup for us on that one. When it hits profit target before it hits entry, you got to remove it. So since that time, obviously, it more or less did sideways. It opened here. And before this kind of crazy news, we were literally sitting maybe about 4 or 5 pips from where we opened. So, for the most part, it went down 30, went up 25, and just kind of stayed within the same range. So even on the 30-minute, not a whole lot of entry. On the 15, you can see, not really great. Again, could you have taken a zone down here? Sure, but the risk would have been a bit high on it. And, it was capped here, and could you have taken one here? Yeah, you could have, and probably ran a bit down. And, there were some small moves back and forth on this one, but it was very, very, again, like I said, pretty muted back and forth. This would have been the best kind of setup, being higher on the range. And there's no way to kind of predict that one. So, really overall, I'm looking right now and looking back and forth and saying, hey, listen, I think our top and bottom is good here on the hourly. Because I was cooking. No. Speaking of cooking, so maybe one of you guys can help me with this one if you guys are healthcare professionals. So I sous vide chicken thighs tonight. I tried this mojito lime recipe. Right, it was actually like a seasoning packet. You cooked it in there, really, really good. Right, smelled awesome. I was frying it up because my wife is definitely very big into like the crispy skin. I don't eat the skin, but she loves like the crispy skin. As I was like frying in the pan, I got shot in the face. I'm assuming it's by like some like the juice that came out, shot me right in the eye, and I'm like, man, my eye feels weird now. It was only a little speck, but I was like, like, what do you do when you get oil in your eye? Do you just put drops in it until it feels normal again, or what? Like, I have no idea. Had a limit or a little too high. Oh, you missed it? Yeah. So if you guys know how to fix your eyes when you get or the grease or whatever it is that shoots out of chicken when you're frying it, let me know. Um, no, let it run its course. Yeah, I can see out of it, but it's definitely I can feel it. It doesn't hurt. It's just like nagging. Like it feels like I have something kind of in there. Maybe I don't know. My wife looked at it. She's like, I don't know. I think it's okay. I mean, like I haven't burned my eye out or anything, but yeah. But now, you know what the messed up thing was? I actually tried to be like the responsible one tonight, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take the splatter guard out because this is probably gonna splatter a little bit. So I had the splatter shield there, and as soon as I moved the splatter, bam, right in the face. I was like, I'm never using the splatter shield again. No, it's not even a sand pedal. Call the nurse hotline. I don't know. Our hotlines are like bogged down. I'll never get through. Rinse with water. Yeah, maybe. Wash it with distilled water. I don't know about the distilled. I don't even know if I have distilled water. Wouldn't I just use regular saline? I feel like saline would be better, like dry eyes or something like that. I feel like that would have the something to like lubricate. I don't know. I mean, it still tears up, but needless to say, my shock, like, I'm like, you know what? Forget this, like trying to crisp skin for my wife. Man, was this a bad idea? So anyway, so guys, on this one, definitely high on the curve. More interested in taking this short, looking for positions to get in. Obviously, with the Chinese data being good, I definitely can see it trying to run higher. Excuse me. As far as levels higher, this is an area I'm looking for right here. You guys can see the descending candles in here, and we've had one test of that zone. If we're able to get up to that range, and probably more there, that's where I leave it. Whoops. 62.82 is basically the range where I'd be looking to short it. It's about 30 pips above 20 pips where we are right now. Would be the next area I'd be looking to get short. There's not really, again, looking at the 4 hour, there's not really a whole lot. Again, we had this kind of clearing candle up. Not too much until we get up to that range, but I'd be looking to take something along those lines inside of there. And again, the 1 to 3 zone is okay. And actually the 1 to 5 is not horrible because, again, we did have that spike to the downside. So Aussie dollar, again, got to come up a little bit higher. Aussie, New Zealand. Again, kind of the same spike, right? I mean, this one started here, went all the way down, came all the way back up again. So, unfortunately, this is going to mess up a lot of the analysis right now with what we have going on. Here's on the 4 hour, you guys can see it was also inside of his zone, right? And ended up cranking all the way back down and coming all the way back up again. We did have this position lower where we were looking for it to go, and I mentioned this before. We were looking for a Harry Potter to the downside. We're unable to get any clearance from that zone, so I had to take that zone off. Not too much we can do with that one when it doesn't give us the actual entry. But from the time it did put a base in, we ended up tagging that base. And again, it kind of rode along the base here as well on the hourly until we ran into kind of this little bump here. So this one has had a couple different trades in it. The gap last night really was non-existent for the most part, as you guys can see right here. Just really, it opened up basically inside that range. So nothing really kind of great. Again, kind of right in the zone, and again, the biggest move here. So this pair kind of scares me right now, just because, again, I do think that the New Zealand is kind of having issues with liquidity for the most part. And again, you guys can see just what happened just a second ago with Chinese news. So any type of release, anything, I don't know. I'm waiting for news that, like, I don't know, waiting for news that, like, the deaths were actually twice as bad as they were actually, or they're seeing a reinfection rate or something like that, or like stories out of China that people that had been cleared now are getting it a second time, and then I think that'll totally mess us up. That, like I said, I think the Aussie New Zealand just has a bit of risk in it right now. So as far as the setups going, there's a couple ones, but not too much. Also, yeah, same thing. Cleared top and bottom. As you guys can see, this one was one of the successful gap. It actually ended up going down and hitting our 1 to 3. It didn't hit the 1 to 5, but it did come back up a second time. So from the gap, the original gap play, again, you probably wouldn't have taken it. The second attempt at it was successful. And again, it did make an attempt up and kind of not quite got front run, but by the standard set of rules, you wouldn't have taken it, but the second entry was still pretty nice. Came all the way back down, touched the 1 to 5, and again, a third one didn't quite work. But again, number 2 is what worked. Had you taken that one? As you can see at this point, you pretty much have to go to the higher time frames, right? We still have this zone up top here, right? And that's kind of probably the best zone that we're looking at is the one kind of up here. Looking at down here, there's a bit of a zone up here, and again, you guys can see we had this one marked off. It hasn't quite gotten up to there. You can see where the gap candle was here, and again, the successful there. So, I mean, we got about 60 more pips to go on this one. The ATR on this one is 237, but you guys can see, again, minus this little piece here, it is starting to push down, and count 14 candles back, we're about to take off one of these big ones here, right? 14 is right here, this little guy. So this long candle right here is about to be pulled off next, and that is a 300 pip mover. So that will also help this kind of continue to push back down. Really, when the one where the check, when that one goes away, by the end of the week, that's a 550 pip move. When that one goes away, this thing will kind of drop back down again, and everything should return back to normal. Hold on. Maybe you should keep the splatter sheet. You know what? I've never used it before. This is the first time I used it, and I got splattered. That's why you have tears. Let it be. Or boil. Wait, you want me to boil water and pour it in my eye? Hold on. Vanessa, you need to explain this one. Or boil water that was cooled. I don't know. I think Vanessa is telling me to pour boiling water in my eye. And I love you, but now you're telling me to pour boiling water in my eye. We need to just... Man, I was about to compliment you. I was going to tell you that I was drinking some more of the cinnamon tea the other day, and it was awesome. But now you're Ernest, help me out here, man. You have to regulate. Come on, you're like a moderator for me, man. You need to regulate the trade. Look, guys, look. She's like, or boiling water. That was cold. I don't know what's going on here. I guess Sage ain't working no more. After it's cold, so it's sterilized. Okay. I don't know, but wouldn't saline just be better? I don't know. Like I feel like if I think we have I think I have saline drops somewhere. I feel like we do. My wife has glasses, but I think she has contacts, but she doesn't wear contacts. But I feel like I have some like not dry eyes, but whatever the other stuff is. I mean, when you have kids, you have to have that kind of stuff around. Anyway, this one's still a bit funky as well, as you guys can see, boosting up into the 4 hour zone here. Um, 1 hour, again, I think we're good up top. As I mentioned before, we have about 60 pips to go before that area. And the short on this one is coming in at 67.41 for the Aussie yen. And you guys can see the ATR is pretty much low minus over this side here. Yeah, even the 4 hour, you can see it's really starting to push low. I mean, it broke these two lows inside of the ATR, so it is coming back within the range where it should be. All right. And pretty soon that won't be back to normal, and hopefully the spreads are returned. Looking at the Aussie yen, we just did Aussie yen. Looking at Aussie CAD. Kind of the same idea, right? I mean, all the Aussie pairs are going to be screwed up right now. Again, this one is bouncing obviously off the lows. Again, we're all the way back up. Let's take this to clear it out. On a 4 hour, you guys can see as well, there was a bit of a zone. Actually, it just caught up right now. You can see we're in a little bit of an area of sellers right now. It's not the cleanest area. We had a basing level, pushed down, popped up again, and came lower. Really, until we get back up top, there's not too much clean, and we got quite a bit of movement, about 243 pips until we get up to that range. That is about 1 ATR from where we are right now on the daily. Basically because of, what you have, kind of some of these things, right? So on the hourly, you can see we do have some zones, and again, those are more or less at the top of the curve here. Looking at the 4 hour gives us the best kind of clear image. And again, the zone that is marked off is actually a wick over wick. It's not the very, very top. It was tested, and that zone, for those of you who don't have the indicator, is coming in at 89.79. So probably some type of a short up there. Like I said, I want to see as it gets a little bit closer, see what kind of news is happening about at the same time. I think that's gonna be a little bit important. All right. Aussie Swiss, 30-minute level, bam, all the way back down. So again, another green day. We're pushing away again, forming a pullback and a continued push forward. As you can see, this one has had a little bit more problems with this 4 hour zone. I'll remove this up top, just see a little bit better. As you guys can see, there's the 4 hour zone. This is not really much trend, right? I mean, it's kind of moving a bit sideways, pushed up, and then kind of just more or less kind of just in the stagnant area. As you can see on the 30-minute, again, it forms some levels, a level here, level here, level here. Is it the best move? No, not really. Like I said, I still think top and bottom, these are the two safest moves in this one. And you can see on the 30-minute, it's kind of this first area here. It's actually between these two, up top and up bottom. So we're kind of getting close on the 30-minute. As you can see, we are about 76 pips from that area. The spread on this one is 2, so it has come down a little bit. It was in like the 3 to 4 range, and now it's in the 2 to 3 range. So it has come down to a better area. But again, is it really trending? Not so much. And again, we'll see the backlash of this kind of spike. And again, look at the 5-minute. Oops. There's the 5-minute on this one, right? I mean, it's just unbelievable, right? Down and up, and we're literally just in very, very minor, difference from where we are. So that's Chinese. I mean, this is the perfect example of Chinese news affecting the Australian market with numbers. All right. So Aussie Swiss, I mean, I probably wouldn't take it long off that area or short. Singapore, same idea, back and forth. So let's get away from the Aussie and we'll protect ourselves from the Chinese news here a bit. So CAD. All right. So yeah, we'll move that one. So we've been kind of floating around these two time frames, but I'll remove them so we can see here. As you can see, we're not really getting much, again, not really getting much movement. We had a spike down here. It's been here for about 2 weeks inside of the same area. On the 4 hour, I mean, literally, here's the gap section up here. And again, we could take it a little bit lower, but we just literally, I mean, here's where we kind of gapped down to originally, back on March 9th. And we've literally just stayed in the same area. So this one, for the most part, has remained kind of stagnant, right? The last so many hours, we really haven't had much here either. Here's the 1 hour. You can see it's, it's pretty compact as well, right? A little bit more to the downside, a little bit of a testing here, but, not really much, right? Kind of the same thing, right? Right here. It's actually right here. Here's where the weekend gap occurred from this candle to this candle. So it stayed within the same range, really not enough clearance. And really from where it opened Sunday, we're basically at the same exact spot. So, I mean, a little bit up. I mean, what are we talking here? We're talking about 30 up, 25 down, and we're in the exact same spot we opened last night. So not really a type of catalyst. Tomorrow morning with CAD GDP at 8:30 in the morning, that will give this a little bit of a bounce. I was trying to look earlier to see, what's their great areas, and the 4-hour is the best chart for this one, or the top or bottom. Top are probably good, although we got about 120 pips to get up that high. It's a little bit much. Don't know if we can get all the way the heck up there just within, overnight or any type of a news burst. But if we do start to rally back up again with some good CAD news, that could definitely be an area where we're looking to take a short off of. As far as CAD yen goes, you can see CAD yen. This is a 5-minute, obviously, very, very small. Again, this one last week, what was that? We hit that on the 25th and the 26th for those 2 days. You can see the pullback we've now officially hit all the way down to the 1 to 5 target. It was, again, this came from the original gap based off, I think it's the 4-hour chart. Yeah, it's the 4-hour gap. You guys can see we touched it once here, and we came back up again in that chart. This is actually on the 25th. So that was, last Wednesday night? And again, you guys can see we came down 1 to 3, and then today, actually, we ended up hitting the 1 to 5 on that one. So nice successful trade in that one. That zone is still probably good. I don't know if I traded again because we had the one hit. We went a little bit higher again and then kind of tagged it another time. This would be number 3 or number 4, depending on, the variation. So be a bit cautious with that one if it comes back up again. Oops. By the hourly, again, you guys can see here's where the gap was from this weekend. All right. And again, it just missed on this one, right? Kind of pulled away, came back up again, and we never ended up getting back up to that target. So really, even on the 30-minute, you can see this one has been kind of a little bit of a wild ride. I would go at least to the hourly and use the hourly. This zone is not bad, right? Pop one candle across and then, 2 very nice candles to the downside. The zone is not bad. It's about 11 pips, so it's smaller than, what we've seen for a lot of pairs. Somewhere in there in that idea, right? Again, this is something that we could play before news tomorrow. Again, if it drives back up into that zone. If it falls down, again, that would be more of an area we'd be looking to take a target to. But that's something on the smaller time frame. Like I said, it's about 40 pips from where we are right now. The ATR on the 1 hour is 28, but remove these 2 spikes, it gets much, much smaller than that. In the 30 minutes, I guess the spikes are still in there, but you can see on a daily at this point, 179. So this one is starting to kind of not have the same effect that everything else is. But that's a small one set up on the 30-minute for a short sometime in the overnight. All right. You can see it here. It looks like it's actually smaller. Yeah, it's funny. It's smaller on the hourly than it is the half hour. Take the smaller one. Okay. That's CAD yen. Let's go down to the Swiss. So, the Swiss. I'm going to drag this in real quick. So, interesting about the Swiss, all right? So one of the things, again, there's not a lot of Swiss pairs. They're kind of like on the secondary position in a lot of things. But I was looking for is I was kind of getting an idea of, okay, what has the Swiss been doing versus other things? Because I don't have a Swiss basket up here. I just have the kind of the primary pairs, and it's never in the first spot. I guess Swiss yen is the only one. But dollar Swiss, you can see we have consolidation pretty much across the board. Euro Swiss, you can see consolidation, and then a downtrend set, meaning it was up. Inside of the CAD basket, you have dollar Swiss, and again, consolidation, kind of mix, right? 1 up, 2 down. Aussie Swiss, this is the only one we have is going up, which again, Aussie is pretty much going up against everything right now, up, and then again, a little bit of a pullback here. And then pound Swiss, kind of the same thing, uptrend setup, but it's it's Swiss strength in both of these pairs. So it's a lot of consolidation, and then in pairs that, it is going against, you are seeing some kind of Swiss strength come back into the market. So it's kind of interesting. So looking at this one, you can see, where are we? I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on up here, right? Because it's a lot of smaller time frame stuff, setups. But for the most part, we've been kind of stuck more or less in the same range. And when we push down, kind of down here on March 9th is like when we kind of hit rock bottom for a lot of things. And we rallied back up again last week, and we've just started to see a little bit of a kickback. Okay. Looking at it on a 4-hour basis kind of gives us, even when I stretch it out to make it look like it's like lots and lots of movement, it's not a lot of clear kind of basing levels or, no clean wick over wicks. It's very long bodies, kind of up, down, indecision, back and forth, right? Looking at it on an hourly, this is where some of the other smaller, zones are coming in. You can see this one was too far away. This one didn't trigger. Um, that's an old zone right there. We'll remove these two. This one is still good down at the bottom. You can see the ATR on this one on the hourly is definitely collapsing. I mean, this is many days, and it's definitely coming back down to normal. Even the ATR here, you can see has a pretty big jump. And going 14 days back, remember, this indicator is based off of 14 days. 11, 12, 13, 14 is here. So again, see this guy from here all the way up? That's a 300 pip candle, and the ATR is 156. So when that one gets sucked out in 2 days on Wednesday, this thing is going to come shooting back down over here. So it's returning back to normal, but it's not giving us a whole lot of entries at this point. It's just giving us lower time frame kind of, chop more or less sideways. So this is what we have right now on kind of a 30-minute. This is actually not a horrible zone, but it is kind of in the middle of this range, and that's the one thing that I don't like about it. I do think if price can get back up into this range here, back up into the 113.40 to 113.55, that 15 pip zone, I think that's probably a better area to take a short off of. Although, I mean, again, with price spiking straight up into this zone, it's definitely something we have to watch out for. And it looks like it tried to kick back. And again, is now, we'll see with this green candle if it's able to hold or if it's going to continue to push to the downside. You guys can see it here. I'll mark it off. You guys can see it. That's we tagged, went into the zone, and now we're kind of bouncing. But again, not a bad level. I mean, you're talking about 13 pips, so we're able to get back into these kind of smaller time frame things. It does have a 2-pip spread, which again isn't horrible. The 1 to 1, or I'm sorry, the 1 to 3, not a bad position at all. The 1 to 5, probably a bit far, but the 1 to 3 is at least in a good position there. So not too bad there. Wait, what does it say? Lindo never splash oil in your eye. Vanessa will pour boiling water over it. I know, right? She's gonna sage you first and then pour boiling water all over you. New meeting to Tiger Mom. She's been watching that Tiger show. Well, I got people on. Has anybody watched that show yet? Tiger King or whatever it's called. I keep seeing memes for it, but I mean, like, I haven't watched it. I'm like, what? I don't understand what's going on. But if you guys have seen things from that Tiger show, let me know. I'm dying to hear what people have to say about it. Like people that I know, because there's some people who are like, oh my god, I've watched 15 minutes and I'm never getting those 15 minutes back again. And then I see other people like, oh my god, I binge watched the whole thing and I can't stop. I can't stop watching it. I'm like, what? I'm like, I don't understand. What is it? You haven't watched TV in months. You're watching it tonight, Debbie. You got to let me know how it is. I got to know. Let me know your opinion on it, because like I said, it's like, I don't know. People are like the people I know are just they're like it's unbelievable. I can't stop watching it. I'm like, what? I'm like, I don't understand. I got you. I knew you meant after the cold. Yeah, Wealth Bitter. Sure. You knew it was meant after it was cold. Mm-hmm. Boil water after you cooled it down. I'm like, what? What show? I stepped away from my desk. Q, it's that Tiger King, I guess. Is that what it's called, guys? The Tiger King or something like that? I think it's called Tiger King. You're gonna make me look it up. Hold on. Yeah, Murder, Mayhem, and Madness, Tiger King. It's a documentary. It's on Netflix. Here, this. Netflix, pay me. This. I don't know. The zoo owner spirals out of control amid a cast of innocent characters and a true murder horror story from the underground of big cat breeding. Look, there's an underworld for big cat breeding. Didn't even know. So, Lindo is feeling unloved. Why is he feeling unloved? Yeah, seen that disaster on my Netflix front page. Lindo's he's like missing. I have no idea where he's even at now. I haven't seen him forever. He stopped logging in. I think he threw the towel in. He went just straight, selling sage on the internet, hoarding hand sanitizer. I haven't seen him. He's like an orphan. We've lost him. Gold went up and down so fast. I'm like, he's over there, There's your mullet. Yeah, there's a mullet. Yeah, exactly. All right, go to your repairs. Anyway, the swish is starting to slow down, guys. It's losing a lot of strength, and like I said, there's only smaller time frame zones that we can kind of play. Yeah, look at this one. That's pretty interesting, right? Also based off of Chinese news. All right, here we have on the daily. So interesting enough, we had this kind of entry up top, and prices now pulled away from it. I think we marked that off on which one, so I can. We'll take it off of here right now, just so we can get a better view on this one on the daily. Anyway, we went from high on the curve all the way down to low on the curve and driven all the way back up again. We were about 60% of the way. So you halfway backers, you did not get your entry in this one. You got your thing blown right through. Okay. So obviously we've had a bit of a reversal. Again, large push up on Thursday. Friday came straight back down again. And then today it was a bit down, right? We're down about 90 pips. On the 4 hour, you can see this is kind of what we're dealing with, right? There were some zones. It got front run. We had a target right here. This is where we wanted to be alerted, let us know so we can kind of come back and look at it. We were unable to get into this zone. Now, again, I had marked off the one. The indicator hit the bigger one. Here's what we have on the hourly. And again, the indicator and I were kind of more in the agreement on this one. But this is what we had today. So really unable to get into it. Here's actually, if you guys look back, here's the 30-minute gap, right? Here's the gap from this weekend. So this is one of the successful entries on there. And again, interesting enough, it actually marked it off. But this one ended up coming up, hitting, and then continued to push all the way back down for a 1 to 5. So again, nice trade setup. Welcome, Alpha. It made it all the way down to its profit target, which is pretty nice, and it's continuing to push lower. Now, it did not take a bounce off of this. Okay, that's what I think this is important to point out here. It did retrace, but it didn't really form new highs. It didn't go any higher. So for me, it looks like this one wants to continue to the downside. All right. Now, again, even on the 15-minute, you guys can see it's got a bit of a ways before we can get till its next target. But looking at this on the 30, it's like, hey, listen, this kind of went far. And again, we can see what it is. It's a Chinese news, right, going all the way down, coming back up again. But for me, it was already in somewhat of a downtrend. So I would have to say in the overnight, I'm probably more bearish this one. But like I said, I think we will probably take a bit more of a bounce when we get back down to this level. Let's see, it is about a 30 pip zone, so I would not be looking to take longs off of it. But that's what I'm seeing right now. On the 4 hour, I don't really see anything in here the way that this is formed. I think this is good until we get back down here until like 108.93 to the downside. Like I said, I mean, we got a lot of bad news, but it's just because we had all our news today. Seeing what we have tomorrow. I mean, again, we have consumer confidence, bad everything else. I mean, a lot of people are talking about dollar strength coming back in the market. I can see this continuing with dollar strength and continuing to push to the downside. So, got to say, bearish this position. I don't really necessarily have a setup in the overnight right now for it, though. Potentially a break, right? We could potentially do a Harry Potter to the downside here. Problem is a bit risk, right? You're talking about 28 pips on a 30-minute. I tend to like to have it at least 15 or 16. Let's see what we've got here. That's better. That's better. So maybe we can do this to the downside. Use our 15-minute risk and then trade it on the 30-minute. Look for a break of that zone. Again, it's in the bottom half of that zone. It'd be a break below 109.53. And it gives about a 10 pip risk, so not too bad. And your targets, 1 to 3 is good. And actually, your 1 to 5 is not bad either. Take that to the downside. Again, if we bounce off the zone, no entry. If we break, make sure you get some white space or some black space, obviously, with my charts. Come back up, use this level as your risk, and then take that for a short in the overnight. Looking at Euro Aussie. Okay. Euro Aussie on the daily, again, we're still retracing from this entirely just insane spike with the Euro weakness or the Euro strength and the Aussie weakness. As you can see, we never got re-entry and we're starting to pull back down on the 4 hour. We have some room before we end up hitting a zone, which is down here located at the 173.76. On the hourly, again, you can see kind of wedge. We got a little bit of room, but really no trend right here. It's just more or less going sideways. And again, this shows you that, the euro dollar being down, the pound dollar being down is a dollar story, not a euro or a pound story, right? Because this is more or less flat. We had one little pop, and that's basically in this position. In the 30-minute, obviously the 30 minutes going to be screwed up right now. What happened here? Well, we know what happened there already, right? You know what happened there. And that would have been the spike that happened just a few minutes before 9 when the news came out. We're now 2 candles past, and again, drop it all the way down to the low one. Look at this. I mean, it's a crazy candle. It's what, 267 pips in basically a 5-minute window. Yeah, but all the way up, tagged a zone all the way down. Now, and it's funny. I mean, this is the definition of a parabolic retracement, but it's not like some. I mean, it's I mean, to such an extreme level. I mean, it's a 5 minute candle that's 260 pips, right? Yeah, it's, I mean, and then retrace back in 15 minutes. So such an extreme example. It's like, I don't know. I mean, you really can't even just mention. It's like, you know, yeah. So right now, this one again, no trend really, no trade for me. I just don't really see too much. Again, I would say I'm more bearish in this position right now, but I don't have an entry on this one right now for anything that is, nothing sitting on my radar. EuroCAD. So EuroCAD is in that consolidation phase that I talked about before, kind of like the Aussie CAD was in the other direction, where we had the big spike down and then it was stuck, right? This one is the exact opposite. This one came up and now it's been stuck. And you guys can see that the highs are getting kind of pinched in and the lows are also getting bigger. And the candles are getting smaller again, right? It's going back to normal size candles. We had a couple days back and forth of craziness, but now the candles are smaller. On the 4 hour, you can see, is there really much trend in here? Not really. For these candles, it's basically flat. It hasn't really moved. Here's the hourly. I'll make it look at like, I'll stretch it out so it looks good. But as you can see, here's where the gap was, right? Drop it down to 30 minute. Boom, boom. Got to reset all these. I didn't look at this one since Sunday, and then I shut it down. What do you got? You're right in. It was right in here. Where is it? Right. Oh, stop moving it. Right here. Here was the gap. But it only went slightly above, right? So here's where we are. This is where the gap happened on Sunday, right? Right here. Actually, I guess it's right here. And where price is right now is about 40 pips away. So had a little bit of spike up, little spike down, little spike up. But for the most part, it really hasn't left the area much. It's slightly higher. Looking to the left, though, I don't really see anything in here that screams. I mean, there's a little bit of descending wicks here, but nothing really screams, hey, listen, there's a lot of sellers. About the only aggressive entry you could take is this wick over wick right in this zone right here. That's about it. And even then, it's kind of like, yeah, it's a drop of, sideways. You can grab something. I don't think we can see it on the here. Let me see. Yeah, I mean, it's okay. I mean, I probably shorten it. Gonna make sure you take the peak. I mean, it's a lot of pips is the problem. Even this lower time frame, it's a lot of pips. Talking, I mean, it's 25. 25 pips. But that'd be the best thing. That zone up here would be 157.13 to 157.38. Okay, the 1 to 3 looks like it's in a good spot. The 1 to 5 maybe a bit far, based on a bit early. You have to see how it enters the zone. So it's got a bit of room to run before we can get up to there. If we continue to grind down in the overnight, this is not a bad zone. I like how it came down. It did grab this long level of basing right here, but it did have a pretty explosive movement off of it. And likewise, it's about 24 pips, depending on when this approaches. Again, your 1 to 3 is in a fine place. Your 1 to 5 is not in a bad place either. So it's kind of like top or bottom, depending on what time we get to either of those areas. Obviously, it'd be great if it got there before the European Open, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Then the next big news event would be the 8:30 in the morning. If we can be up high in the morning or below, whether here or here, which again, that's asking for a lot. You need a lot of movement in the European session. But top or bottom before the CAD news tomorrow at 8:30, and then we have a potential short before we, short or long, depending on what zone we are near. Okay, that'd be Euro CAD, Euro Swiss. You guys can see Euro Swiss is really just kind of stuck down here at the bottom. It kind of took one bounce and then it's kind of like more or less just flattened. You guys can see again. I mentioned before last week, my problem with this one is it's a lot of wicks. There are so many wicks in here. It's like somebody drew a line and then put it on top of your dryer and vibrated it. It just, for me, there's just not a lot going on here. There's your sideways movement on the hourly. A little pop down and a little pop back up again. Just nothing that screams like, hey, this is a great trade. I mean, look, you guys come back, here is where the gap was over the weekend between these two candles. Really no gap whatsoever. And from where we opened on the 30th here, we are down a total of 7 pips from where we were last night. So not really anything that I would say is, a great tradable position on that one. So Euro Swiss really didn't give me really nothing. Last week it was a much better setup. This one is it's just not there. Euro pound. So as you guys can see, Euro pound on the daily, right? We pushed down, we pushed back up again. In 24 hours, we've moved exactly 6 pips as from where we were now. Now, again, obviously we had some down movement and had some up movement in this one, and it kind of bounced back and forth. On the hourly, you can see we actually took a bounce off the hourly earlier, and ended up moving, what, about 80 pips to, tag this other zone about, an hour ago. So it wasn't a horrible entry. We knew that there was a zone sitting there. We knew that it was opening up in that range. I gotta get the forward to load it. You guys can see it right here. We did end up entering it, and it was a small one. Again, I don't know. Let's see. It tagged at about 10:30 this morning. It didn't have a lot of conviction, so again, you may or may not have been able to take this one. If some of you were looking at it, some of you weren't, but it was a very fast. It did enter the zone. That was probably the best setup that we had this morning, and you can see it took a long time. I mean, literally, it spiked up, came down, touched, and then just stopped. So this was a harder one, and literally that spike actually sent us through. Obviously, if that spike didn't occur, we just actually ended up going through 1 to 3 right now. It did go all the way opposing to the opposing zone. This one I would not have been aiming for a 1 to 5 because it's on the other side of an opposing supply zone. So not the best setup. Had you actually used the opposing zone from this area, then you would have actually hit that one as well. But I wouldn't have originally had this profit target for more than a 1 to 3, just based off the fact that it spent so much time. And the 1 to 3 is good, right? Good spot here, but the 1 to 5 is just too high. It's on the other side of this zone and the upper end of this zone. So the 1 to 3, I'd love to say, hey, yeah, I would have grabbed that one. No, I would have grabbed the 1 to 3 and that's it. And we would have just got out of that one within the last half hour as well. That top zone is actually not a horrible zone. It barely touched before getting turned and flipped back to the downside. So depending on, again, what time, if we're close to the London Open, if we're close to the current account news report at 2 a.m. in the morning, there's a couple of different what ifs. That could be another potential setup. Remove that side and take it from here. You're looking at 89.69 to 89.87. So doesn't look like as many pips as doesn't it's more risk than it actually looks like. It's because we have some big movers on this chart, but not bad, right? It's not the end of the day. 18 pips. The ATR, this one is also coming down. I don't have it up here right now, but you guys can see there's the ATR on the daily. So again, kind of at a peak, but again, go back 14 days. 14 are in here. Big thing is we need to get rid of this big guy and this big guy. So by the end of the week, we'll start eating some of these larger numbers back out again. And that will kind of start going back into normal ranges, and we'll see this come back down again. So euro pound, it's there, playing on lower time frame. So euro yen. So euro yen is a bit busy. It's back and forth hiding in here. We'll go down and go right into those things on the lower time frames. Okay. So there we go. So we had this zone drawn from last week here. Let me remove this line. Okay. Here was the entry from the gap, right? That did not hit. This was an entry we had on the bottom side from a zone here. And we drew this one. This was actually drawn last week. And you guys can see, what did we do? We came and hit it. We drove up again. We gapped, we went up, we did not get filled on the gap. We got front room, we came down, we hit that same zone again and came back and ended up hitting both targets. Okay. So that was a nice little setup on the euro yen. It hit again, but I would not have used it for the third time. It actually came up and hit again and then hit again. So I don't think this zone has much in there. I know the indicator drew it again, but I left this up here because I would not take this one again. I think this is probably pretty dangerous. I think this level is about to get smoked, but we could use it also for the downside. So, I can mark it off, could mark that off and say, hey, listen, we have a potential Harry Potter on that one. See if we can get this one to go to the downside, right? But I'm gonna delete it from this side. All right, so we did just go into a zone here. Now, this is not a horrible little setup right here, okay? This one, the risk in this is about 20, right? The 1 to 3, it's just slightly lower than where I would like it. The 1 to 5, I would not use it. It's on the other side of that zone. Not horrible. Didn't have a bad pop. If you look to the left, you can see that was actually zone prior. It didn't come all the way back up to the gap, though, and that was the one thing that I was looking for. Now, it is in the middle, and again, you have to kind of take one away for, being a top ranking when we are sitting in the middle, but it did have a nice pop, and again, the entry on that one was pretty nice. If it does go back to the gap, though, I do think that that's a target we need to look at. I think the 15-minute is probably the best area for that one. Um, something along. Let me see here. What is this one? Yeah, it's 24, probably 18. So something along those lines right there is kind of what I'd be looking for. All right. And I think that coincides actually. Yeah, it's about mine is a little bit bigger than that one. But I think that's probably the best one is one off the 15. Would encompass that body in there and give you kind of a, not a bad. It's about 18, so not a bad level, right? So again, if you don't like the more aggressive zone that we just ran into, or you didn't get the entry, or not, you don't like it because of the basing, which it's not the best. Again, top, bottom, that kind of brackets that one in. You can do it on the 15-minute, all right, for whether a short or a long top or bottom. And again, this one we will probably have some movement in the morning. Again, European Open, it's always good for something. But either of those two is good. If we break this top zone again, what I would do is I would look for this. Not of these two, I would take the top one, not the bottom one. If this is not your entry, the top one starts up here at 121.00 to 121.14 to the top side on the euro yen, and that would put us more, higher on the curve, right? And put us higher on the curve up here for a better entry. All right. Took a nap. This doing a lot of nothing, wearing me out. Yeah, right. I came in late. I hope there's not a test today. Alpha, not today. No, we try not to do the tests every day. Homeschooling. Most of us are so fried from teaching kids at this point. No, he's in the country now. He's in the country. What? Thinking about becoming a substitute homeschool teacher. Whew. James, it takes a lot out of you. It takes a lot out of you. And I won't lie, I enjoy teaching a lot. I really enjoy teaching a lot. Like I will go and work in my kids' school and stuff like that. I enjoy helping out. Like I actually like the kindergartners and stuff like that. I think they're cool. But I love teaching everybody's kids except my own. My kids are a pain. No offense. But if you want to take my kids, you're more than welcome to teach my kids. But when they come, James, if I send them to Texas and they come back, they better know how to build a still, and they need to have ingredients memorized. Because, like I said, we have shelter in place now. When they shut the liquor stores down, there's a market. I mean, figure, hey, didn't the Bushes originally make all their money with bootlegging? Like, wasn't that them? I think or was it the Kennedys? Maybe it was the Kennedys. Not the Bushes. I guess was oil. The Kennedys, I think, didn't they originally make their money from bootlegging from Canada? Like, I think that's where the family got all the money from. I'm convinced that's what's next. In apocalyptic times, if I can make alcohol, you're good. Kids be coming from Uncle James all happy and hyper and fall asleep without any issues. Yeah, I know, right? Intro to Nadex and Moonshine. Hey, Nadex keeps these strike prices twice as big. It's going to be harder for me. They need to shrink the strike differentials. I'm like, come on, man. I can't trade a 5-minute binary when it's like 15 pips in 5 minutes. It's like, really? Come on. So that's your Euro Yen setup. Going across the Euro New Zealand again. I'm not really touching this one. You guys can see it had a pretty sharp decline on this. Really not much movement today. Again, you guys can see we had the large spiking here in the hour, right? This is what jacked it. And then you can see since that time it's been doing nothing but coming back down to normal. But again, I still believe this is going to have liquidity issues. You can see we had this little bit of a spike back and forth. So if you are looking to step in, I actually do like the 30-minute zone up here. This 30-minute zone is actually not bad. The reason I say that is because we did have a test that come up and then we got front run on it. It's big. It's 45, 46 pips. So more than we normally like to take. This one has a spread that goes between 3 and 5, and I think it's justified. This one's still a bit jacked up. And again, on the daily, again, it's 865 pips. 14 days back from here is here. There's 14. So this candle right here, which is 470, is about to come off. And then we got the small ones. But when this big one here, this big gigantic, you guys see this big red candle here, this gigantic one, that is the 1,000 pip candle or 1,700 pip candle. When that one comes off, this thing will go poof, right back down again. So yeah, I'm counting that. That was only what? That is 9 days away. So by Friday, that one will be coming off the ATR, and this ATR will go poof, all the way back down again. Then we'll be able to trade this one again. So I'll be looking for that one. Touch brackets are better now with such wide strikes. Yeah, the touch brackets would be because your profit is better. I mean, you can still keep the risk low, but the binaries and stuff like that, I'm having more issues with right now. Euro New Zealand or Euro dollar. We already did Euro dollar. And the Euro Singapore, again, we've been bouncing. We got front run on that daily. You guys can see we came right up to it. We were talking about it before we came right up to it, and it turned and flipped and popped right back down again. So I think for this one, again, you should be holding this top line here for sells. Up here at that 159.32, and then downside, again, if you're going to take profits or anything for shorts, 155.09. We're kind of smack in the middle of it right now, going between those two zones. That's what I'm kind of holding. I'm not going to drop even lower because I'm looking at those two daily zones, top and bottom. All right. Going across to the pound. So pound has news tomorrow morning, current account. It's not one of the ones that shows up on most people's radar as like, oh, it's a must trade. But again, any type of news these days can literally bring weakness into a position, right? And the reason why is because, you never hear that saying, no news is good news. That's kind of what we deal with right now is no news is good news, right? If if your country is not in the news about more people dying, taking over first place, Parliament, Prince Charles, Boris having some stuff, we'll see. But for the most part, you guys can see we had some consolidation in here. On the 4-hour, you can see the same thing, a lot of consolidation. I'm going to remove this just so we can see it, but this zone is still a great zone up top to be able to take. Let's delete that so we can get some of this out of the space. And then you guys can see there was some lower time frame stuff today. All right, so here. There was the immediate the gap from this weekend. As you guys can see, this one kind of bounced up, got front run, and literally traveled all the way back down again. So a little bit harder to get into this one. As you guys can see, the entry was up top. We literally just got missed. It was right there. It missed it, and it continued to push down. And then since that time, didn't do much. Here's where the market opened Sunday. Right, we opened right here, and where we are right now is about 5 pips higher than what we were. Right now it's telling us in the last 24 hours it's moved 73 pips, but for the most part we had a big drop down and it did drop into a zone. Okay, I don't know if the indicator marked that one off. Let me see. Whoops. Okay. No, that was a wick over wick, which I wasn't interested in. This is a zone right here. Okay. So it was a zone that we came down to, so it was not a bad entry to take this back up again. Again, obviously it's counter trend, but as you guys can see, if I remove this, right, let me, let's bring this all the way back here. You guys can see where's the last time we had a big pop right here. So there had to be something sitting in this zone. So again, this was the kind of the takeoff point, and it almost came back up, got front run, and now it is kind of in the same area. So, I think this one has great opportunity lately. The spread is at between 2 and 3, which is not horrible. As you guys can see, it does get a little bit busy. I'll remove this so we can see it. It's busy top and bottom because, again, prices really kind of skated sideways. There's not a whole lot there. In the overnight, probably wouldn't do too much with this one. I'd wait till we get the London Open tomorrow morning and see what type of new levels form, or the top or bottom. Now, all this chunk in the middle I would not use. I do think that this zone up top is probably good. And I do think that this one down here is probably good. And using those two as kind of my entries. Again, I love the pop-up. I love that it got front run. I love that this is the gap. I love that it didn't get back to here. This sideways, we have a high, a lower high, a lower high, a lower high. It is going between these two levels. And, I guess in all essence, there is about 70 pips there. But, at the end of the day, you got to take, decent amount, 33 in either direction. There's just, you're barely making a 2-to-1 inside of that range. And it's just literally chopping sideways for the most part. You spent literally 6 hours back and forth in there. So I think that the better call would be wait till we get up top, wait till we get to the bottom. And again, if we can get there near the London Open, that gives us a much better opportunity to either go short or go long from either of these two levels. All right. Now, again, this one for me, again, check your own numbers. But my numbers, it's 134.51 up top and looking at 132.48 on the bottom side for the pound yen. The pound yen. Pound CAD. Pound CAD is obviously having that big spike. You can see this one kind of similar, but unlike some of the other pairs that literally just collapsed down or went straight up, this one was moving sideways. It popped up with CAD weakness, and then boom, collapsed with CAD strength, and then CAD weakness brought it right back up again. So a little bit more of a funky pattern on this one. We were looking for a break of this lower level. I'll remove this so we can see a little bit better. We did not get the break of the level. It pushed higher. So, obviously no entry in this one. On the hourly, you can see there's really not a whole lot. The zone that it spiked into here, you could say, oh my God, it hit another zone. Yeah, it did, but you wouldn't have traded that one. The way that this is capping up top, you would not have taken a long position. It is showing more bearish than anything else. I do think it will continue to be bearish in the overnight and continue to push lower. Again, this would be more Pound weakness versus CAD strength. There's not a whole lot there really that's going to signify CAD strength. And I do think that GDP number tomorrow morning for the CAD, instead of being 0.1, I do think it will come in as 0.0. It makes interesting margins all wonky too. Yeah, everything, they're all a little funky. We need a couple more days and then we'll be good. Pound dollar. Okay. On the daily, pound dollar it's down 66 now. Obviously, it's starting to wear back out again. Again, on the daily, you guys can see this one was really, really pushing back up again. We came back up. We got to hit this middle area, right? We went from low on the curve to middle of the curve, and it just missed this wick over wick. Depending on your broker, you may or may not have gotten triggered on that one. Kind of a funky area to turn on. It did go a bit higher, but man, it'd been nice if you got the short. It's moved quite a bit off of there. Since that time now, at this point, you guys can see that it is hitting a level of buyers. Here was that kind of top zone, and again, it's a double top. It's kind of like, your wicks are identical, right? They're sitting right there. We didn't quite get there. You'd have to take this bottom piece here, which a lot harder of a trade setup. Now, again, we are capping. We do have failure to go higher here. So on the hourly, okay, on the hourly, you can start to see some of the gaps, and you can see that this is one of the gaps that was actually filled. Okay, you guys can see it right here. It came back up, it grabbed the top of the gap, and continued to push, and then obviously this one blew through. Right. Again, you'd have a target somewhere down here, but you would not have been short for that long. Okay, this one was a rather quick one. Once you got your entry, you guys can see it hit its 1 to 3 and went all the way down and tagged its 1 to 5 on this as well. So nice setup, pretty much textbook for what we look for. The zone is probably good for one more shot. So what I would do is I'd mark off that top zone, look for something on this side, right? As well as of these two, the first one's not bad. I mean, the first one's okay. I mean, it's 40 pips. I like that one a little bit better. The risk level is about half. It's a little bit farther down the curve. It's about 25 pips. So kind of taking this one down here for the bottom entry. And again, last time, it formed a level here. It hit and spiked, hit and spiked, hit and spiked again, and then got front run. So, although it's the third or fourth touch, I think this one is probably pretty good based off its last reaction and the fact that it got front run. We'll have to see when the price comes back down again how the 1 to 3 or 1 to 5 looks. But it looks like nice sell up here. Looks like a pretty good long here. And looking to the left, right? Looking over here, looking at this. Don't hesitate to be able to take this for, if this one stops us out, don't hesitate for this one to be something along those lines either. Right? This, turn that one a red. Don't hesitate to see that either. Right? If this doesn't bounce and we go lower and get that white space, don't hesitate for a short to the downside. Because if you look at this, look at the 1 to 3. 1 to 3 is touching here, good spot. 1 to 5, right above where the actual last red candle is. So again, both of those are not too bad targets to the downside. So I have a bunch of different warnings on this one, so my phone will probably be going off in the middle of the night about this one. All right. Pound Aussie, same thing. Again, that big spike, we already saw that before. Daily, again, a lot of consolidation. Look at all these wicks in here. So for me, this is a no-no. I just avoid this pair right now. There's just too much drama in this pair. Just not worth trading it with all this junk. I mean, it's just horrible analysis, right? Looking at Pound Singapore, again, Pound Singapore, I am still bearish this position. Okay, you guys can see we're driving up, and we turned. And on lower time frame, you can see we did bounce off of a wick over wick that was tested before. Did great again, and again, it's put in a red, green, red. It's continuing to push the downside. It is flirting right now with some buyers to the downside, but I do continue to see this one again, the pound weakness with everything that we're hearing over there. Not that we hear a lot out of Singapore, but we're going to hear more out of the pound with, if Boris Johnson's condition starts to deteriorate or Prince Charles's, condition starts to deteriorate, those things can be a big deal, right? God forbid, if the Queen gets it, I didn't hear it. Hopefully she doesn't have it, but could you imagine if the Queen gets it also? If Prince Charles has it, was she in close proximity or anything with, Prince Charles? If she has it, it's kind of a big deal because that means the number 1 and the number 2 both would be, at risk. And they are both of the age where it is obviously extremely detrimental. So, yeah, that could be a little fun, So we will see. So that would be Pound Singapore. Looking at Pound Swiss. Pound Swiss is interesting, right? So we're seeing Pound Swiss. We're seeing the Swiss kind of get some power back into it. We do have a pretty nice zone, and we had a pullback in this one today. But looking at this, it's kind of like, we got a zone there. If we can get just a bit higher, and we did make a little bit of a push, right? As you guys can see, on the 30-minute at least, you can see that this obviously spiked down, but this one did not qualify. This had actually a quite large spread. This was like a 35 pip spread when I looked at this one yesterday. So, I mean, I didn't even qualify for, looking for a son of gap. And that gap came in right here, right? You can see that we closed in a green, or actually we closed in a red and the green opened slightly inside. It was obviously in a Gulf pattern, and it moved up, and you know, I don't know, just the spread was way too big for me to do much with it last night. I am bearish. I do like how this is continuing to push down. I do love all these lower highs, the lower lows in here. The spike down cleared a little bit of the way, so we know we don't have any buyers until down in this area. So I do think this is a position we could be short in. Getting an entry on it though is kind of like, you know, not a lot of clean zones to be able to get an entry. The best one with this would be probably here. Looking at that, if price is able to come up to there, such huge movement, and again, we know that's the Chinese news that forced that down, and then when it came back up again, at least we know that there was something there, and again, price had already pushed itself down from there one other time before, so that's probably where I put that short. And again, check it on yours. It's a lower rank trade. We'll see when I hit, when the trigger hits on that one, but probably not as interested. And pound New Zealand, again, just not on the daily. Still not really interested. We haven't left the area. Huge spikes back and forth. 479 pip. ATR right now. That one candle is still that 1463. Although, wait a second, hold on. 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, this is 15. So that first one is out. That first one is out, and that's what led this big spike down. So that guy is out, right? Yeah, that one is just out. That's number 15. So yeah, 14, 15. Yeah, so that's just out. So next time we get, I guess by the end of the week, by next Monday, these next big spikes will be taken out, and we'll see this one come back down to normal. Which again, this one is a 7 pip spread right now. So this is one of the 8 pips, one of the largest spreads out in the market right now. So again, be very cautious trading that. Going across, looking at New Zealand. Prince Charles is supposed to be good now. I read he's good already. Yeah, all Asian markets probably would be, yes. How is he good that quickly? Is he taking the now approved drug combination that supposedly didn't work? I don't know how he would be good that quick. I actually know 2 people now that have it. I only know one of them personally. It's a guy out in Vegas, and he said he had like really bad flu for like 2-3 days. Lost like 15 pounds, but he has no fever and the aches and pains are gone now. He just says he's like it feels like it's pneumonia because he's just coughing stuff up all the time. All right, New Zealand Swiss. You can see this, nothing super exciting on this one. You can see on the 4 hour, same thing. A lot of sideways movement. No real trend in this one. You guys can see we've been butting up against an hourly zone, and it's really like ding, 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 ding. I mean, it's good and sideways. There's just not enough movement. Obviously, the Chinese news spiked it all the way down and back up again, but it's in the same exact area. On the 30-minute, it hasn't really left, and on the hourly, it's in the same zone, right? Same area. Not really. I don't know. Not super interested to get short the position. I just don't feel that it's enough in there. And again, the spread's a little bit bigger on this one. So New Zealand Swiss is not anything exciting for me. As you guys can see here on the daily, here's the 4 hour. And you guys can see, still have this position high. I'll remove it now just so we can get some of the lines out that cleared a little bit better. There is a bit of a zone. It is about 80 pips from where we are right now, starting at 66.02. And that would be a 4 hour level. I'll go back here. I'll mark it off for you guys on this time frame. On the lower time frame, you guys can see it's really just sitting just above these 2 zones. So it's got a chunk through. Got a ways to go still in that one. And like I said, I don't think any of these zones are too clear. Not super concerned about them. And then again, the gap was right here. We just kind of went a little bit lower and just bounced back and forth between these 2. So nothing super impressive with New Zealand that I was really into. And then New Zealand dollar. You can see on the 4 hour, really just 16 hours of consolidation back and forth inside of a range. It's only about 20 pips. It's got a spread of 1 right now because it's just dead. There's just no movement. Like I don't think ATR on this one. You guys can see, look how much it's dropping on the daily, right? At its peak, it was at 124. Now it's already back down to 55, right? Already back down to 55 because everything's getting eaten out of this one. As you guys can see, all the way up at its peak, it was 210. And again, we're already back down to 186. And part of that is because of these two big candles right here. But going back, so we're about to lose another big candle, which is another 207 pip. Again, over the average, which means it's going to drop as long as we don't have another big. So this one is also coming back within normal range. Again, 1 to 2 pip spread, not too bad. Lower time frame, you guys can see it. Just there's 15 minutes. Besides that one candle, it's literally stuck inside of a 25 pip range all day. So just not really anything to trade. Post the article in the story, but he's out of self-isolation. That's a fast. I mean, figure this way: self-isolation has to be 14 days minimum. And I'm sure they retested. I'm sure they got some test kits. I hope that when I get it, I am asymptomatic. That is my hope. Because it sounds bad. But yeah, I'm hoping that I'm asymptomatic. Now, if I get it, I'm just gonna tell you guys right now. I was like, man, if I get it, I am coughing a ton, but that's because I have all the windows open because it was so nice outside today, and I am definitely a spring allergies person. I typically have coughs this time of year, so. But I was like, God, what if one of us gets it? I was like, well, if I get it, I was like, I'm gonna have to bribe Eva to do chart school because Ernest and James told me that they would do chart school for less than 5 minutes, and I don't know who else is gonna be around. I'm gonna find somebody to cover if I get sick. But yeah, I'm hoping when I get it, I'm the asymptomatic one. I just want to be one of the lucky ones. All right, go to the dollar, guys. All right, so dollar yen. Okay, dollar yen. Talk about taking a hit off that daily, right? Came back down again. Obviously didn't make it to a 50% mark, but had a nice little turn today. You're seeing the ATR on this one is really starting to flip. At its peak, we were sitting up here at 255, and now we're back down to 208. So it's dropping very, very fast. Going 14 days back as well. You can see the 14-day mark is right here. Okay, so we're about to lose a 304 pip day, which will obviously drop this, and then on Wednesday we lose a 406 pip one. So this ATR is about to go and shrink right back down to where it needs to be. Now, again, back over here, guys. Earlier, we were at about 66, was a little bit on the low side, and obviously coming up here at 212, right where it is now, is a little bit less. Going and looking for what our day was today was about 101. So it's getting back to where it needs to be. It's still a little bit inflated, but not as crazy as everybody's making it seem. Dropping to the 4-hour, and then I'll just drop right down to the lower time frames on this one. Zoom one out. You can see there was like the bounce today. Here is the gap overnight. It ended up hitting and going all the way down and ended up, you guys can see it went past the 1 to 3. So this is another one of the Sunday night gaps that ended up working out just great. Now, this is a weird one because you may have gotten stopped out on this push, depending on how close you trailed it. I think originally on one, I was testing an indicator on, I think it was one of the other MT4s that I have, and I had a 10 pip because I was trying to see. So basically, what I was trying to do was I was trying to get some results as far as trailing these stops and see. Thus far, all the gaps, I've been sitting there kind of watching them, and I'll check in on them every so often, and kind of, I'm either letting them roll or I like overly manage them. So I was trying to say, okay, listen, if we throw these on and throw a kind of a 1 ATR trailing stop on, what would the results be? I'm going to track it over the next month and see how it works. This one got stopped out, unfortunately, with 1 pip. 1 pip or 2 pip profit, I think, when this pulled all the way back again. It did enter the zone, but it got close enough that it actually triggered making a few pips on that one. We moved our stop loss to break even, okay, on that sample account. Like I said, I'm trying to kind of trying to figure out how to automate it so it'd be easier for you guys to trade Sunday night gaps. But this one came back and got it, unfortunately, and only got 1 pip, even though it ended up hitting the full profit target on the actual account. So, yeah, it was a little frustrating with that. I was like, it got real close. But that's going to happen. It is what it is. I have to throw it into the data and I'll analyze it and figure out if it's worth doing or if it's not worth doing. Basically throwing these on and then set trail so you're, immediately at break even. We'll see. I'll let you guys know at the end of the month how that test turns out. But again, we ended up hitting the 1 to 3 and then it turned and kind of went back again. So it didn't really bounce off much. We did create a new level down here, right? And you guys can see right here, we did create a new level. It did kind of reach up, grab it again, and then take off from it. So I would have to say that that's probably a still valid level down here at 107.24 down to 107.12-ish range. Probably not too bad. And again, looking at this, you can see that, again, there were some levels down here. We're approaching an hourly zone. I actually do like this hourly zone if we're able to get up to here. That's sitting up here at 108.89 to 109.06. I do like that zone. It was a 4-hour zone. It was actually based off of this level back here, which is more or less the same. And then it only had a very, very brief touch here. So not a bad level. I'd like to see what it's able to do. I mean, if it turns and just starts to fold back down again, it kind of ruins that entry. But not a bad position, right? Not a bad position over there. And again, same thing. Even though we are sitting over here and we are rallied back up again, you can see there's definitely a big push off of this zone. So there are definitely sellers there in the past, and they forcibly, again, nice push off of this one. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for is when this comes back up again. All right. And again, remember, in any movement, as it did here, we have an impulse move correction, impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse, gap, impulse, and then all of a sudden we have an impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse. Well, now we have impulse. Is this the correction move in the next impulse? See where I'm going with this? So that's how they all start. Big push, little kind of pullback, and big push. There's your big push. Is that your little pullback? Will that be enough to turn and continue to push down? Maybe. We shall see. But that's kind of what I'm thinking and how I'm feeling about this right now. That's a level that I'm looking to get short in. Okay. Yep, I'll do gold tonight. All right, dollar CAD. All right, so dollar CAD. All right, dollar CAD. You guys can see not only have the huge expansion up, push back down again, and now we have some CAD weakness again. So this is kind of a weird pair. This is another one of those ones that we're looking to get entry, and we did. Right here was the entry. We ended up getting that entry from last Thursday night, and ended up going to hit the 1 to 3. It did not hit its 1 to 5. Okay, but it did hit its 1 to 3, and ended up going up its profit target. So remove it now because it's over. All right. Now, here's where the gap was from this weekend. You guys can see here was the gap. Price never came back to it. And it didn't really even leave that far. I mean, it kind of came down and tagged it, but not really much, right? From like where we closed, it was about a 40 pip move, but from the top of it, it was only about 9-10 pips, right? Didn't quite get back, and then we rallied back up again. So for me, looking at this one, I'm like, we have this golden line. This was an alert for us. I'm looking at this zone up here and thinking, not a bad zone, okay? What I'm thinking right now is we have CAD GDP number tomorrow morning, right? I don't believe that the CAD number is going to be good. Okay. The question is, if we can get into that zone before the release, will that be enough to actually kind of shoot the CAD to the downside based off of that type of reaction? Now, we do have Chicago PMI right afterwards. So it's kind of one of those trades. It's like I'd almost like to get into the trade and get out of the trade before the news happens. I just don't know if we're going to get enough movement overnight to be able to do that. Because like I said, I expect the CAD news not to be great. I also expect the US data at 9:45 to be worse than expected. So it's kind of like, I want it to be in and out before that, but I'm afraid that it's not going to be. I'm afraid that because it's in the overnight, it's going to kind of flatline. My hope is the European session will drive it, but I'm going to wake up early and kind of check this one out tomorrow morning. But, if we are down here and then we spike up to that for the CAD news, I'd definitely be into taking this one short for the U.S. news because I do think the U.S. news is going to be worse than expected and potentially shoot this to the downside. All right, that's what I'm kind of looking for here. Dollar Swiss. Dollar Swiss, again, this is also doing that same type of high to low and then low, basically high to low, low back to high, and then high back to medium. And this is the impulse. Is this the correction? And will we see another impulse to the downside? So on the 4-hour, there is another zone I typically like when the zone is built with a candle back here, not this front one. So it's not my favorite. You can see we did kind of touch it earlier today, but this zone is quite large. I mean, you're talking about 30 pips on a pair that really doesn't move much. It's only got a 1 pip spread. But it did spend a lot of time in that zone. So not really my favorite. I may look at this one tomorrow before the actual news release for the U.S. at 9:45, as well as the 10, probably more the 10, the consumer confidence number. And I'll see where we're at and see if there's any type of a new setup. But I don't really have anything in the overnight for this guy. And then dollar Singapore, as you guys can see here. Again, we did push below that zone. This was a zone that we talked about being a target, right? Looking for some type of a target. It did hit. It did go higher. It did hit again and kind of push through that zone. So this zone ended up getting blown up pretty well. really, that was the best zone on here. Besides that, there's just not a whole lot really stopping it. As you guys can see, we went super high on the curve. And part of the problem with the top of this one is price has never been up this high. So only so much we can do. Looking for a green candle, and I do think we will come. I do think we will come back down to the side. I just don't have many. I don't have many setups on this one right now either. You guys can see here on the 30-minute, it just didn't do much today. Didn't do too much. All right. All right. So let's go over and look at oil. Yes, I was on a 15-minute chart of oil today. All right. So there's your 4-hour. Okay. Here's your 15 minutes, and you guys can see we finally filled that, that gap from, being low here, right? And I was on the 15-minute because of these targets down here, right there, right? So here was a trade setup from earlier today. You guys can see that here was the gap from Sunday night. Not only did it hit and come back up to the top of the gap, it actually gave us a new level. It came back down and it just missed the entry, came back and touched, and then again bounced again. So these two 15-minute zones were pretty good. And then towards the end of the day, obviously, it got a little bit much. You can see that one kicked in at about 10 o'clock this morning. And again, it dropped down, came back up again, went sideways, and then has obviously gone up since that time. So, very, very briefly today, it made it down to $21. But now you're starting to go, you're past the gap, and you're starting to see much more movement higher. So I don't see much slowing it down until we get back up to this 23, I guess 24, right? Because it was 23.9. So 24 is the next area I really have many sell orders in. It's about 70 cents from where we are right now. So again, it is a bit of movement in there, but you can see there's really not too much that we need to worry about right now, right? That's really the first time we have some nice little levels come in. And again, this is when I'm only really trading, during the day. I'm not really doing much with the overnight in it. Waiting until we get some, good data. But again, up here in this case, it's up in the 24.65. There's not really much. There's a little bit of a zone here, but that's about it, right? That little fall over here, that's really about it. I don't really see much more that I'm super worried about. I think that's in that little area. Yeah, it's this zone over here. Okay. I was just trying to see where those marked off at. It's not too bad. Again, that's actually a bit. That's right at the 24. 24 to 24. It's funny. 24 to 24.4025. 24.25. So 25-cent risk on that one, taking it back down to 23.25 is kind of the best setup I have with that one. And it's funny, I had this talk with Jack last week, and he's like, yeah, we're in a bearish extension still. I was like, I just don't think we can break the $20. I think it's too big of a psychological level. And we made another attempt, got back down to 21, but I just, there are levels down there at the 19 range, but I don't know. He said he had a long-term extension target down at 16, like 16.25. And I was like, man, really? I was like, that seems really far. I was like, I don't know. Like I said, in the middle of the ranges, it's good, but I mean, they can't take it to oil. They can't put everybody out of business at zero. It's just not going to go that far. Pretty large price difference. Yeah, probably. But I mean, again, use the thing that you've done. And again, I did have levels down at 1950 something. Back over here, I don't remember where. Dollar figure, but we actually there's actually a zone down here. I have it marked on this chart. No, I actually have a level at 19. There is actually a level down there at 19 somewhere. But yeah. But again, you got to trade your platform. Trade what you're looking at. All right. All right, so that's oil. Looking across the gold today. Again, on the 4-hour, on the 4-hour, again, not much. Again, back and forth, a little bit choppy. I'm still bearish gold. I still think if we can pop back up, I'd be looking to take a long. At this point, things have just kind of chopped sideways. And again, you got an area here, right? I mean, we have an area buyers right below where we are. It's not a bad zone, right? Nice push off of there. Those buyers, I think, are going to step in at 1603, which is a little bit lower than where we are right now. Looking at it on a 30-minute, my waist. What is she messaging me for? As you can see on the 30-minute, again, we've chewed this bottom side up a little bit. You guys can see, I mean, really below this, there's not much sitting there. So it looks like it does want to go down. Again, high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, all the way through. So, you can see we're putting lower highs in, and the bottoms are putting up a little bit more resistance. But again, it drove in this zone pretty deep. I don't see this zone holding much more. I see the first kind of downside target down here to 1601, a little bit lower, again, about 10 bucks lower, with a secondary target. Now, I'd love to do a Harry Potter trade on this one, but we'll see. This is obviously going to be more of an inflation play. And remember, if you look this week, we have non-farm employment change on Wednesday, ISM manufacturing on Wednesday, and on Thursday, we have the unemployment claims, and they're not even putting a forecast up. So kind of the same thing of what we saw last week, right? When we saw these big kind of, this is what we saw last week. We saw a drop in oil for the unemployment days. We didn't really see the big same kind of, huge spikes like the stimulus. Well, the stimulus is in, right? As we get more and more data and more people get sent home and we see more unemployment claims, that also lowers the risk of inflation. So again, on a technical, and a fundamental level, I would say I'm still bearish oil, right? I see that level breaking, and they get on the 15-minute. Missed a couple entries today on the 15-minute, but you can see once this zone breaks, I think target 1, target 2 is what you're looking for. Yeah, I think it's target 1, target 2. All right, silver. Okay, silver is, it's funny. Look at this on a daily. We pushed all the way back up again. Silver, not so much, right? Silver, not only do we bounce off a level, but it's also starting to turn back to the downside. I'm still bearish. Again, missed entries just by a little bit in here on the 4 hour. You can see we had one pop and then kind of sideways movement. On the hourly, kind of the same thing. We were unable to get back up to those two zones. You can see it more or less sideways, one pop down and then kind of stayed at the same level. 30 minutes. Here's the new levels of data. You can see we held tops and bottoms today like we should have. Again, we spiked down, we spiked back up again, and we kind of held. I don't know that I would be looking to take a short here, but if we get back up top into either of these two zones, particularly this guy, I'd be looking to take shorts in silver. I'm definitely much more bearish silver, primarily because, again, oil is associated with it, but with Chinese production levels going up, this will be something that they will be seeking as well. So there will be kind of not a metal, there will be kind of an industrial commodity pricing kind of feature starting to be pushed back into this pair. So yeah, we'll see. But I think, again, intraday, look for some of these levels once they've been formed, as you guys can see. I mean, this one, nice zone, got front run. There's nothing we can do about that one. But last time we had a zone put in and was tested, we had a big push away from that one. And that was actually last week, right? Actually, that was today. That was, oh, no, that was last week. No, that was last night. Yeah, I was like, wait a second. Why is it going to, what's 29th? Like, wait, today's the 30th. Yeah, so again, that was formed for last night. All right, so definitely bearish silver. All right, oops. Yeah, there's the zone. Again, NQ, big push down, gap, and then today was a good day, back up into that level. All right, so interesting enough, again, we still have this 4 hour zone. Whoops, not that one. Still got that 4 hour gap that we're looking to get short out of. There's not really a whole lot here as far as a 4 hour basis goes. And Monday, it's always going to be a little bit harder to be able to pull your 4 hour, charts out. But on an hourly, you can see, again, we've not only hit this hourly one time and pushed about half of the way through, it came back down again. We opened and then again, continued to push a bit deeper into the zone. So it looks like this zone wants to falter and fail. Okay. And then a 30-minute, you can see we're still sitting in this zone. Let's see if we can go back and figure out how that zone was formed. Yeah, actually, that's not the first attempt. That's number 2. The original is over here. So we're at 1, 2, kind of 3, but even if we only give it 2, we're at 3. So yeah, it looks like this one is due to break anyway to the top side. So what I would do is I would look at, that zone is breaking. This one's okay. Honestly, I like the top one best. I think this is the go-to. I think that's your go-to. Yep, that's up at the gap. So for me, it looks like if we can get up back to 84.97 to 85.69 in that range, that's where I'd be looking for a sell. Now, again, we got some room to run there, but if you look over here, what do we got in here? I mean, a little bit of a pop here, a bunch of wicks in here. There's an all right zone right here. I mean, I guess there's a small zone sitting there to basically there. You guys can see it tested, tested, tested. Um, we may hit a little bit of a hiccup in this 82.07 to 82.62, but for the most part, I don't really see too much. And again, we could turn. I mean, we could turn off of this, but a lot of it's going to depend on the numbers tomorrow. I mean, the consumer confidence numbers is what's going to matter. All right. Looking at the Dow. All right. So Dow had the same thing, right? We closed here. We gapped down basically straight up today. Really no kind of pullbacks or anything. You guys can see this one got pretty close. We had a level sitting over here. Didn't quite get it. We did have a zone that was formed last week. Hit it. Or not last week, but yeah, I guess it was last week. And then we didn't actually get an entry today. Oh, actually, I guess we did. No, we didn't. No, and then we opened and we just went up. So not even really any good entries on this one. I didn't really pay attention to this one today. I was a bit too busy. And you guys can see there was our opening print, came back, didn't touch it, didn't actually touch it here, and continued to go up and then pushed all the way up. So, Dow was one of those ones. It moved. This one actually, because we haven't been in this zone, there's actually two different trades here. This is obviously much, much closer, right? So we have this original one here, and I'll extend this across so you guys can kind of see where that one is kicking in at. That was original position that we had set up. I think it was off the 30. Yeah, it's a 30-minute zone, right? There's a gap on the hourly, which you guys can see here. The zone's a bit bigger. That's probably the best little target between the different indices, and that kicks in at 22,964 to 23,117. So if we continue to push up tomorrow, again, if we can get this in the overnight, I'd love to be there before the actual news release tomorrow. That would be great, but we're not quite there yet. If we can get up to that consumer confidence number is bad, then yes, this will potentially shoot to the downside. So that would be a nice little trade setup. The zone we're in right now, I mean, if we just go sideways across it, it's okay. But, it's tagged the area a bunch of times right now and it's slowly eating the orders up. I like the gap a little bit better. I think pulling this off the 30 minutes here, I think that's a much better position. Much better position. Again, obviously we have the gap up there, but we'll take that off just to not confuse people. Okay. We're kind of looking for the peak of that, which is here. All right, S&P. So S&P, same thing, gap down straight up today. No different, right? This one doesn't really have a level. It's okay. You guys can see it's up there. It's quite large though. You're talking about a pretty big area. We're not quite there yet. There was a bit of a zone here, and again, not a great level. Price didn't really push off of it. Again, on the 4-hour, this one doesn't have a whole lot clean either. I mean, you have this big candle, so I don't really like too much on this. Like I said, the hourly gap is about the only thing, and it's not even drawn that great. I mean, literally, it spiked up and then retraced all the way back down again. So honestly, I think the best one of the three of them. I like the Dow the best. So again, let this one go over and let it go to the morning. See if we can get the morning. Seven to quite a bit. I don't like that it was literally at the very, very end of the day, and then we had this little like gap down and then gap down again. I think of the three indices, I like the Dow. That's the only one I like in the overnight. Anything else, we'd have to check to see where our first thing in the morning. Okay. Any big gain specs for tomorrow in any of the indices? Well, I mean, obviously tomorrow morning with consumer confidence is going to be a big deal. I don't really follow regular stocks. I'm mostly a currencies guy, and I think if anything tomorrow we will see some dollar movement. With a bad PMI and a consumer confidence number, I can see a bit more dollar strength coming back into the markets. Um, I think you can see the pound go down again. I think the pound will be another big mover tomorrow. Dollar yen has the potential to be, but we'll see. What else we got? That's Lindo asking. Yeah, gold. Gold's been boring. All those gold longs are getting handed to them. All right, guys, that's it. All right, so let me see. Let's pull up Stream Elements. Okay, we have 8 people entered into the drawing right now. Make sure you guys do your exclamation point ticket to get into the drawing. Okay. And Spaghetti, do you have something in particular that you were looking at, or are you just looking for something that's going to move? Because I don't mind pulling up a chart if you have something in particular that you're looking at. Guys, I'll give you 1 more minute, by the way. 1:35. I'll shut it down. Yeah, Spaghetti's not here anymore. Wealth Builder has been snagging those last couple ones. Oh, I'm on USO and how. USO would be very similar. I actually don't think oil is going to move till Wednesday. I think Wednesday morning for the oil inventory, I think that will give us the best reading for USO. Now, I don't know if you saw the very, very beginning, right? You see news like this that Trump is having discussions with Russia over oil. I mean, he said he agreed to hold the U.S.-Russia talks on oil, but he agreed to have a talk doesn't really mean a whole lot. But again, it's coming into the news. Until the oil inventory report, I don't think we'll really see much because nothing's going to happen in the next 2 days. So I think that one will be probably pretty slow tomorrow. Let me look at Hale real quick. Pull it up real fast. Base where that one is. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's in the best position right now. Let me see if I can pull it up from a better. Trying to see if I can do the analysis on this one correctly. I'm here. I'm trying to get a chart that I can actually do something with. Let's see, I don't care about that. Let's see, display tooltip. No, I don't need to display the tooltip. I don't need the year. Let me give the 5-day. I don't need a MACD. Chart overlays, no. Give me candlesticks. Let me zoom in. No, I don't need all this other stuff. I don't need earnings. I don't need dividends. I don't need splits. I don't need MACD. I don't need volume. I don't need simple moving averages. All right, so there's kind of the best we got. So we'll do need that big. Let's do 10 days. All right, so looking at this one. All right, so what I'm seeing in here is I'm seeing kind of prices consolidated in between 2 levels. I'm seeing down here, obviously at this kind of, what is this, $5.13. We obviously had something that made the market gap up into this area, right? And then vice versa, I'm also seeing that when price was able to push up, it pushed higher, back up into, what is this, $6.63. Again, it did push a little bit higher, came down, it based, and then gap lower, and has been unable to come back to that gap. So for me, where current price is at 645, there's obviously something that was going on at $7 that forced this thing to the downside. I don't see, I mean, on a technical basis, I don't see anything that's right now is telling me that it's not going to come up and test that $7 and then turn and push back to the downside. Again, being in the situation again, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to just cover the name and not have any bias on the thing. I'm looking at it purely on kind of a, purely on a charting basis, and seeing this, if anything, I have to say, yeah, listen, we burst through the last gap, but again, we put in a high over here at 662, and then I'm seeing lower highs in here. So to me, I would have to say it's a bit more bearish. I don't know if it's obviously not going to go completely to the downside, but like I said, That $7 gap right there where that thing jumped down again is showing me that there are sellers in there because there's a level sitting right here as well as a level right here. And again, I'm sorry that it's so small, but maybe it's a little bit better. Yeah, there's this gap here, and look at the basic level right here, right? Down, down, kind of ground up, and then slam back down again. And as soon as it touched it, boom, gap right back down again. And again, now we're sitting in a level over here. Go across, you can see that's what we hit, and boom, go back down again. So for me, I'd have to say that I'm bearish this one, all right, more than anything else. All right. Now, maybe it's up $5 tomorrow, and I hope that's the case if you're long this position. But just my opinion, if I'm canceling the name out and not focusing on the name at all and just looking at the chart, that's what I'd be looking at and saying, hey, listen, I don't see a whole lot. Now, again, it's going to have a base level of what it's worth, you know, assets and everything else wise. It's pretty beat up right now. I mean, looking at this over, you know, a 3-month period of time, you can see that it's, you know, here, I'll do a 1-year chart. You can see, I mean, it was basing over here. It's obviously very affected by what's going on right now. But obviously, you know, selling its assets in the base level of things, it's worth a certain amount. It's not worth zero. Things they have are definitely worth something. Okay. But in the range that it's in, and again, I was an advisor, I was licensed. I did work for one of the big three advisory firms. Once it comes down to this price, I was no longer allowed to talk about it anymore because it was considered too dangerous for advisors to be able to hold in clients' accounts. So if it's too dangerous for those people, probably not necessarily the best idea to be messing around with that one. But again, if you're trading it, don't trade it as stocks. You know, there are better things to go over the options market. You'll do better off and less risk. I'm trying to play this just purely buying stocks. Again, even at $6.45, you think that it's, hey, listen, it's only $6.45 per share. I can get in. I can buy 100 shares or 200 or 5,000 shares and do it in options. Don't go doing stocks. It's too much risk. All right, just protect what you have. All right, so we got 14 tickets purchased. Let's go ahead and close the giveaway down now, and we will go ahead and draw a winner. And the winner for tonight. Wait, who won last time? Who was the winner last time? Was it Ernest last time? We open our mic so we can see how. Oh, Ernest won. Okay, Ernest won last time. No. We'll see. If Ernest wins again, that means look at this. Ernest is like, I'm going all. Hey, all I gotta say, guys, is this is pretty funny. Everybody knows if Ernest wins again, he gets the 100 pip chips. So what do people do? Buying two, buying two, buying two, buying two. Ernest bought two, but it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of crazy, right? All right, so the winner of the drawing is, drum roll, please. Oh, the girl comes back and she wins with 7%. Wow. Wow. Man, you better be careful. Ernest is going to be saging you up. But the funny thing is, I'm pretty sure like Sean, Q, and Wealth Build are all like, at least Ernest didn't win. At least everyone's like, Ernest has now become like the emperor, you know? Nobody wants him to win. So I'm going to mark that as complete. Man, look at that. Hey, Vanessa, make sure that you tell. Yeah, I know. After she boils my eyes out, right? And then she gets it. Make sure you tell, make sure you tell Lindo, like, hey, listen, I go on for one night, I win. Look at that. That's the way you do it. There we go. Boom. Good to go. Oh, my baby's still up too. But there's some hot water for you. I know, right? Yeah, there's hot water. Everybody wants to dethrone the king, and that's what it is. Pretty soon we're going to have like Ernest with like a crown or something like that. Where's my boiling water? I know, I'm getting burned one way or the other. All right, guys, so with that being said, make sure you jump on again tomorrow. Oh, don't forget tomorrow, I am doing the Q1 2020 review tomorrow morning for Nadex at noon. And there is going to be one half, and again, I have to get the final approval on this one. I'm pretty sure we're good, but there will be one half of a free code for a free class. It's a class that is not currently published right now, but that's the idea. I have to clear it with the guy tomorrow, but it's there's going to be one half of a code for a free class that's not currently online yet right now. So just going to leave that out there. All right. This is Lindo. Lindo, it's not you. I know it's not you because you didn't win. You say that you never win anything. Yeah, I go gold every day. Yep, gold every day, buddy. We always cover gold, but I'm definitely short gold. Not as short as I am silver, but I'm definitely short gold. One half. It means, Q, that the code for the free class is going to be 2 words. You only get one of the words tomorrow. So if you attend the Nadex webinar, and you're not working, so you should attend the Nadex webinar at noon. If you attend it, I will give 1/2 of the code for the free class. And all you have to do is when you go on, it will be a coupon code. Again, people can purchase the class, but it'll be a coupon code that if you put in the two-word code, you get the class for free. You have to listen to the other webinar. There's 2 webinars you have to watch. How do I know I'm not working? How do you know I'm not working? Is it like the Wheel of Fortune? No, it's not like the Wheel of Fortune. Okay, you live in New York. Nobody's working. I'm on house arrest here. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, he's actually, he's a New Yorker. Yeah, so he's at like so again, when you guys say your prayers at bedtime tonight, make sure you say a prayer for him because he's like literally at the epicenter of all this. And they don't know what social distancing is. They're still using public transportation. So we have to say a prayer for Q. Hey, be careful. I will send Vanessa with her boiling water after you. You better stop. All right, guys, I'm out of here. The baby is running laps in the hallway, so I need to go get that girl asleep before my wife kills her. I haven't gone out since Thursday. Hey, Q, I haven't gone out since Thursday either. And I'm not even in New York City. So I told my wife, I'm like, man, I'm going to be the one person in the family that gets it, and I'm the one that doesn't leave the house. The boys go back and forth to their moms. Melissa goes to the office because again, in advising, people send checks in, so she has to go get mail. Me and the baby are the 2 people that don't leave the house, and we're going to be the ones that get it. So, all right, guys, I will catch you guys tomorrow. Have a good night, and I'll see you in the morning. Take care.